Okay, crossover tube removal. Again, this is a Diablo, but I think it's the same more or less. We have these inspection plates, so I've already taken that off. You got a hose clamp here, identical on the other side. Take both inspection plates off, and then both the big hose clamps. And you got the big ones in the middle. Okay, so had a couple hose clamps there, and then it was zip tied in like 3 or 4 places, some of this wiring loom. Pretty easy so far. Okay, so I already had my clutch cover off, but that's the front clutch cover air intake, and then the back one that's plugged, I believe on most cars, is back there. If you take these hose clamps off and pull this tube down, this Y tube, give you a little bit more room for what comes next with the crossover tube. Okay, so I ended up pulling the 2 bolts that hold the front seat, got the front seat out. Now back here, this like radiator drip tray or whatever you want to call it, it basically has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts that kind of hold it in place. Just kind of get all them loose and let it sag there. Got 2 more bolts, this one on each side. Then you just got to pull the plastic back and lift this out. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. Okay, once you get the clutch intake tube loose from the crossover tube, which is easier, the hose clamp on it is easier to be reached actually from underneath the car. But anyways, then just kind of pull this side out, pushing it that way towards the other side a little bit, and finagle it, watch your wiring looms and all that. Kind of just pull it out. And there you go, there's one removed crossover tube. Okay, so I removed both the front seats, and I'm going to remove both seat belts where they pass through here. It's going to be easier to get this piece off for the radiator. So once you get to the point where you're trying to get this radiator guard and whatever you want to call it, you got to get this part around the bottom of these motors, and once you get that lifted up at an angle, you got to drop this front part down pretty low to get it behind here and pull it out. It's a little bit of a pain, but it did come out. Well, once you got that guard off or cover, you take out these 2 bolts on both sides, and then this guy lifts up and that comes off. I believe that's where the spacer blocks are going to go. Okay, well, what you got to do is cut all your zip ties, everything holding everything, and it really helps to have a second person. I didn't, but I used these pieces of wood and this little pry bar to nudge it up in the center and on the sides to where I could get the round spacers. Then you lock them on with their Allen set screw. Facing back is easiest. Anyways, you got to get everything up, lift it up, and then lay it back down on there. You don't need much clearance above what it takes to fit them in. And then you go to the front. Okay, so once you got the back done, you can come over here and you can put these spacers in at the bracket. You want to be pushing up on the radiator to get it more straight up and down, so these grommets sit nice and tight like they were. Tighten everything up here on the front side, and then you're going to zip tie everything back up nice and neat and make sure nothing's pinched or rubbing or nothing like that. For the most part, I think that's it. It's just a matter of going to be putting everything back together now.